Wolf TV, your Fox station in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Myers. Peter Gammons will be joining us from Atlanta, where he took in the Phils and the Braves in just a moment. First, the battle in the AL West, and it was a battle. Nolan Ryan was trying to keep the White Sox from running away from the rest of the division. Now, Ryan has never, as a Ranger, been charged by a batter over an inside pitch, and the only noted time it happened in his career was when he was with the Astros and Dave Winfield came after him. The White Sox came after him in Arlington tonight. First to the bottom of the second, Alex Fernandez a little close to Juan Gonzalez. And then at the top of the third, Robin Ventura batting. Ryan going to pitch this a little tight, and it hits him. Now watch, Ventura thinks about it and then comes after the old man, but Ryan stands right up there with him and nails him in the head a few times, even an uppercut underneath it. Everybody comes out to go at it as Ventura and Ryan make their way out of the pile. You'll see that Ventura escapes from the thick of it. Ryan out of it as they still were going at it, and Gene Lamont starting things up, yelling something at Nolan Ryan, and Ryan yelling back, and they go for round two. And again, pushing, shoving. Bo Jackson in the middle of that. You can't tell who's stirring it up or who's trying to stop it. Mickey Hatcher, the ex-Dodger, one of the Ranger coaches, caught up in this. In fact, he was once the stunt man, right? And then once they calmed things down, Gene Lamont thought that Ryan should have been ejected, as Robin Ventura was, and he lets the umpire know. And then Gene Lamont is thrown out. Nolan Ryan has been ejected just once in his career, and he was not ejected in this one. Now watch on a replay of when Ventura looked at Nolan go at, and then the underneath shot to the face of Robin Ventura, as that's what started the controversy in a game that means much more to the Texas Rangers, who, of course, need to play catch-up against the division-leading White Sox. Once they got back to playing, Rafael Palmeiro, his 28th home run of the year. He's hit 12. Has a hit, I should say, in 12 of his last 13 games. And that has Texas on top now 5-2 in the seventh inning. Again, Ryan was not ejected, still in there pitching for the Rangers, who need this to cut into Chicago's lead. And again, only once in his career has Nolan Ryan been ejected. Now to the Royals, who are in the chase, playing in Anaheim, a later start. George Brett in the opening inning off Phil Leftwich. Greg Gagne races home. Royals add a run for David Cone and have a 2-0 lead. Now the Angels have gotten back into it. It is 2-2 in the third inning. Gary DiSarcina singling in Eduardo Perez to create the 2-all tie. That is David Cone against Phil Leftwich on the Royals, trying to end a 3-game losing skid. Wow. First in the AL East, the activity going on there between the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And the Yankees have really bombed in the Bronx against Toronto. New York needing to make a statement against the Jays in Game 3 of their 4-game series after Toronto confidently took the first two. Now, after this week, the two teams will face each other in just one more series. That'll be for 3 games in Toronto at the end of September. Tonight, it was Stewart against Caminecki. And against Danny Tartabull, the high heat gets him 4 strikeouts through 4 innings. Caminecki worked into the 8th. In the 5th, Mike Gallego, the ex-Oakland A, off Stewart, another former A, the solo homer, his 6th of the year, and it's 1-0 New York. Bottom of the 6th, the Yanks up 3-0. Mike Stanley off Stewart. Devon White on the run and makes a catch that prevented extra bases, possibly a home run. Caminecki, an excellent game here. Fools Devon White on that pitch. And then on the bottom of the 7th, Paul O'Neill not fooled on that pitch, scoring a pair. The Yankees build a 6-0 lead on John Olerud's 25th birthday. New York with a 6-2 advantage as they win it by that score. Scott Caminecki, 7 1/3, allowing just 2 runs. And when the Yanks needed the big win, they got it. 7th victory of the season. O'Neill going 2 for 4 and driving in 3, as John Olerud goes 1 for 4, now batting .394. The Jays don't seem to mind the traffic, parking conditions, or those safety questions at Yankee Stadium. Since '87, they've played .600 ball against New York, and overall, they've dominated the Yankees. In the Bronx, though, really successful. They have a .280 team batting average there and have hit nearly twice as many homers as the Yanks have in games in New York, but the Yanks get the best of them tonight. At the Metrodome, the Red Sox chasing and playing the Twins. Aaron's friends and family giving him their seal of approval. Seeley, a Minnesota native, started off strong, getting Shane back, retiring 8 of the first 9 batters. Dave Winfield taking a huge cut. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Bryant Harper batting for Minnesota. And a high pop, John Valentin. Underneath, I got it. I got it. I don't got it. It got lost in the lights somewhere. It's rule of the base hit. Top of the 4th, 2-0 Red Sox. Scott Cooper to left. Larkin hits the wall. Calderon scores 3-0, and then still in the top of the 4th. Fletcher with a hit that Kirby Puckett has trouble coming up with. A triple for Scott Fletcher. Boston hangs on to win it by the score of 5-4. Kent Herbeck doubling in Chuck Knobloch for Minnesota to get that late run. But the Red Sox win a game that they had to win as the rookie Aaron Seeley wins his 6th of the season without a loss. The Red Sox winding up their 13-game road trip where they have been batting around .230 and allowing nearly 4 runs a game. And on home, they've won 35 out of 50 games, but away from Fenway, well below 500. And after Minnesota this series, the Red Sox will go to Detroit before coming home, but they gain a game with Toronto losing tonight. At Camden Yards, the Brewers and the Orioles. Top of the 1st, 1-0 Milwaukee, bases loaded, 1 out for Tom Bernansky, and Tim Hewlett spears it, throws to Harold Reynolds, and they get 2. Bottom of the 1st, Mark McLemore deep to right. It's up there. It's out there. It's a 2-run home run there, and Cal Eldred behind now 2-1. Top of the 2nd, 3-1 O's. John Jaha at 3rd. Hewlett doesn't make the play, but Cal Ripken does. They get the 4th. Top of the 5th, 3-1 O's. Juan Bell, the shot to left. Brady Anderson gonna have to play it in the corner. Bell is headed for 3rd. The throw comes in. He's not safe. Orioles take it 8-6. Arthur Rhodes with a solid pitching performance as the Brewers on the losing end of Baltimore in a wild game. The O's winning 8-6, knocking off Milwaukee. 10 hits in the game for Baltimore. So here's the way the American League East stands at the moment. Jays losing, but still a 2-game lead over the Yankees and the Red Sox. Baltimore with a 4-game difference from the top of the Tigers trying to hang in there. Highlights of them a little bit later on. Peter Gammons joining us from Atlanta, where he saw the Braves and the Phillies. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, Peter. We'll talk about the AL East race in a moment, but your thoughts on Nolan Ryan being charged by Robin Ventura, and according to our records, that is a rare happening in Nolan Ryan's career.
Well, I've seen Nolan hit some people, Chris. I mean, I once saw him hit Doug Griffin, which was the scariest beating I ever saw in my life. And, you know, I mean, Nolan has been known to plunk a few guys, but I just can't imagine this happening. I mean, I really can't. And, you know, I realize the passion in the West right now is so considerable. We had the Texas-Kansas City fight last week. We've had fights all over both leagues. And I just think it's one of those things where there's an awful lot going on right now. It's been a very hot summer. And for something like this to happen, well, it's an extraordinary part of a rather extraordinary summer.
With Nolan Ryan, does he pitches inside? Do few question him because of who he is, because of the kind of pitcher he is? And don't players hesitate charging him where maybe against other pitchers they wouldn't hesitate?
Well, I think there's no question. It made it so unusual for Ventura to go out there. I mean, it's, you know, this is Nolan. I mean, for whatever else, you may say, well, he pitches inside the guys. He's been known to plunk a few guys. But he is probably the most revered player in the game. Players love him. I mean, the number of autographs he gets asked for by fellow players, that's what makes it so surprising. I mean, they kind of go, well, that's Nolan. You know, we're not going to do it. And I'll tell you something else. I mean, it's very obvious. Nolan will always stand up for his teammates, and this was retaliatory. I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised they got carried away that way, but I guess it tells how much blood there is spilled between the White Sox and Rangers, just like there was between the Royals and Rangers.
Yeah, out there against Robin Ventura, Nolan looked mean like Clint Eastwood in The Unforgiven. One quick comment, Peter, on the AL East, because later we'll get back to you on the National League races. But a crucial game for the Yankees tonight because the Jays have had their slump, but if somebody doesn't stop them, they're the kind of team that could run away even in this division.
There's no question, Chris. It's really important. The Yankees can't get blown out of this series because they can't let the Blue Jays get too far in front. Just as next week, after the Yankees go into Boston, the Blue Jays go in for a huge series. The Red Sox, who have 31 of their last 50 games at home and are so good at home, have to put the brakes on the Blue Jays because I really believe if they get 5 or 6 in front, there's no way they're going to stop them because the Morrises and Stewarts and Hankins and Guzmans are going to pitch better the last 2 months of the season.
All right, Peter Gammons joining us live from Atlanta, where he saw a wild one between the Phillies and the Braves. We'll have highlights later of all the activity, especially in the National League, where the two leaders were in action. We'll check on the Giants and the Padres, as well as the Phillies, who can launch it further with the Braves. Highlights from the launching pad, and we'll show you the Cardinals, who have a long way to go to catch the Phils, hosting the Marlins. Stay with us. I know you will.
Is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you, friends know when to say when.
Welcome back to Baseball Tonight. The Braves figured they had the right pitcher going in a game crucial to their hopes of catching the Giants. Tom Glavine, unbeaten in his last 4 starts, facing the Phils and Curt Schilling, whose name had been mentioned in trade talks that surrounded Randy Johnson. Glavine, in his last 3 victories, an ERA below 1. Facing the hot-hitting Phils at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. To Darren Dalton, who rips the double down the right field line. John Kruk and Dave Hollins are in. 2-0 Phillies. Nice slide. Bottom of the 4th, 2 on for David Justice, who puts the Braves ahead with 1 swing. An opposite field 3-run homer, 26th of the year, and it's 3-2 Atlanta. Top of the 5th, 2 on. Talk about hot. Get out of here. Pete Incaviglia, the drive down the right field line, and he hits the screen. 5th homer in 4 games, and the Phils up 5-3. But in the bottom of the 8th, with the Phils leading 8-6, Greg Olson pinch hitting against David West, who really had trouble in the inning. That's gone. A game-winning homer as Olson comes through big time at the launching pad. Jim Fragosi's Phils on the losing end, 9-8. As Inky, we mentioned how hot he's been with 5 homers in the last 4 games and 12 runs batted in. Dalton has driven in 10 in his last 7 games, 80 runs batted in for the season. Justice, his 26th homer, so second in the National League. Olson with his 4th home run of the year. And Peter Gammons joining us again from Atlanta, where he witnessed that game. And Peter, your thoughts on how emotional a win this was for Atlanta, a team that can't seem to gain any ground on the Giants, who just don't lose.
I think it's really important, Chris, because of the way they lost last night and the Giants came back to win. If they're going to have a game that can turn them and get them rolling so they get some momentum, make the Giants think this is the kind of game.
Couple of unsung heroes for the Braves that obviously came through. I mean, a guy like Olson, when you consider the power hitters they have in Gant and Justice, who homered earlier in the game, had to be big for the Braves.
Well, very definitely. Greg Olson, Mark Lemke, 2 very huge parts of the last 2 pennant winners. I mean, last night, Olson came out, hit the home run, gave them the lead. It didn't hold up, but it was all a statement, look, I've had a tough year. I'm going to carry you down the last 2 months of the season. And Lemke had the 3 hits off Schilling, the huge hit off David West to right field, a 2-strike ball before the Olson home run. I think these 2 guys so often get overlooked with all the murderers row, but they're very key players, and they have been for the last 3 years.
All right, thank you very much, Peter, from Atlanta, where he enjoyed the Braves and the Phillies on ESPN. The Braves taking it by the score of 9-8. Now, on the eastern side, the Cardinals couldn't afford another slip-up against the Marlins, not if they want to stay within telescope view of the Phillies. The Phils will face the Marlins next, then host Montreal and the Mets before playing Colorado. So the Cardinals don't plan on getting much help along the way. Donovan Osborne, by the way, who bruised his knee last night, had further tests and is not expected to miss his next start. Alan Watson started tonight against Florida. In the 3rd inning, Rich Renteria with a liner to left, and Brian Jordan on the run and makes the catch. Ryan Bowen having trouble in the 3rd, walking Langford. In a 1-1 tie, he walks Todd Zeal. Bases loaded for the Cards. Gilkey, Langford, and Zeal on. Bowen facing Mark Whitten. And he's going to force a run home with that pitch. 2-1 Cardinals. Rene Lachman says, you're out of here. Richie Lewis comes in. He walked in a run. Then Luis Alicea with a grand slam homer. 7-1 Cardinals. And even though he wasn't in there, that still hurt. Ryan Bowen, as the Cardinals, hoping to take advantage of the Phils' loss, have a 9-1 lead in the 7th inning. Bernard Gilkey, 2 for 2 in the game early on with a couple of runs batted in. Greg Jeffries sitting out now his 8th straight game for the Cardinals. First ever grand slam for Luis Alicea. Giants in San Diego, and Barry Bonds, his 33rd home run of the year to make it 2-0. He leads the major leagues in that department. Tim Worrell, the starting pitcher for San Diego. Greg Brummett for the Giants, who have that 2-0 lead now in the 4th inning. And the Giants, of course, if they win, it would negate any gain that the Braves might have. Barry Bonds comes into this game with a slugging percentage of .703, and he'll probably add to it something that hasn't been done for a complete season since 1957 when Ted Williams accomplished this. And the last time it happened in the National League 45 years ago when Stan the Man Musial pulled it off. The Dodgers and the Astros in the Dome. Dave Hansen making just his 4th start of the year over at third base. Tom Candiotti pitching. Craig Biggio smashed to third, and Hansen on it and got him. Maybe the third baseman of the future. Pete Harnisch working on a 2-hitter into the 7th. Tim Wallach, of course, out injured for the Dodgers, has had health problems. Hansen with a blast down the right field line. Is that going to be fair? It is. His 2nd home run of the year. Dodgers went up 4-2 and held on to win it by that score. As the Dodgers, 79 home runs this year. They only hit 72 for all of last season. For Hansen, his 2nd home run of the year. In Montreal, the Mets and the Expos celebrating Dallas Green's birthday and celebrating with questionable defense. Jeff Kent, then Ryan Thompson, a little bit of trouble here. Larry Walker facing Sid Fernandez. Walker gets a hold of this and drives it for his 14th home run of the year. Expos win it 3-1. Dallas Green, not a happy 59th birthday. Nice catch by the Expos in foul ground to help preserve the 3-1 victory over Dallas Green. Larry Walker 2 for 4, 2 runs batted in, 10 hits in his last 21 at-bats. Alou with 25 runs batted in his last 27 games. And don't forget Sports Center with Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick comes your way following Baseball Tonight in just a few minutes. They'll have more of the activity around the ballpark. As we continue here on Baseball Tonight, we'll tell you why Jim Leyland was so upset in Chicago. More highlights ahead here. Don't go away. And Cubs, 2nd pitch of the game. Frank Castillo at Carlos Garcia. So both teams are warned after the wild history they've had in this series, and Jim Leyland didn't like the fact that the warning came so quickly in the game. He said, that's ridiculous. They threw him out of the game. Top of the 8th, Cubs were up 5-4. A runner on for Orlando Merced off Sean Bosky. That's his 7th home run of the year. Bucks up 6-5. Next batter, Jeff King. Bosky, a little high, a little tight. Jerry Lane says, you are out. I warned everybody. Jim Lefebvre also was tossed. Bottom of the 9th. Men at 1st and 3rd for Derek May. Denny Nagel trying to save it. And he does. He gets the 4-6-3 double play as the Pirates win it 6-5. Again, both managers ejected in the game. The Pirates had hit 9 consecutive solo homers before Merced had the 2-run shot. Don Slott, by the way, signing a 2-year contract extension, had 3 hits and drove in 2. At Riverfront, the Rockies and the Reds. 4th inning of a scoreless game. Barry Larkin batting. Hal Morris will come home on Larkin's triple, and it's 1-0. Larkin had 3 hits in the game. The Reds led 4-1 in the 5th. Chris Sabo was upset because the Rockies intentionally walked Kevin Mitchell to get to him with the bases loaded. Not good, because Greg Harris's pitch was out for a grand slam, the 3rd grand slam of the season for Chris Sabo. That ties a team record. The Rockies have lost 10 straight now, and they have a homer in 15 straight games. So pitching is the problem. 9-3, the Reds a winner there. Tigers and Indians, Detroit wins at 8-3. Travis Fryman, his 2nd multi-homer game of the season, 4th of his career, in a home run in the game. Mike Moore, over his last 4 starts, 3-0 with an earned run average of 2.25. In the afternoon, the A's defeat Seattle 5-4. Ken Griffey goes 0 for 3, and you see it. His last 21 at-bats, he has struggled. Terry Steinbach, 2 hits and 2 runs batted in. Scott Lighty called up when Ricky Henderson was traded. His first major league homer for the A's. Brett Boone hit one out for Seattle, and Jay Buhner had his 20th. Baseball Tonight, back in a flash in a moment. And here's a look at the home run board from Wednesday. Barry Bonds leads everybody with 33, and the Pirates win behind Merced's 2-run shot. Well, the story of the night took place in Texas. White Sox and Rangers, and Nolan Ryan at Robin Ventura. Ventura thinks about it, comes at Nolan Ryan, and look at Nolan slug away at Robin Ventura. Everybody comes out and gets into it from both sides. They had 2 different eruptions from this incident. Robin Ventura was ejected. Later, Gene Lamont, manager of the White Sox, was ejected. Nolan Ryan was not ejected. Only once in his career has he been ejected, and only once, according to the records that we could find, has any batter charged Nolan Ryan, and that was when he was with the Astros and Dave Winfield came after him. Nolan Ryan has never been charged as a member of the Texas Rangers, but you can change that now thanks to Robin Ventura. The Yankees win over Toronto to slice their lead to 2. The Red Sox and the Orioles also win in the American League East. You see that Texas game is in the 9th inning. They lead the division-leading White Sox 5-2. Kansas City is tied at 2 in the 4th inning. A quick recap of the National League. The Braves rally on Olson's homer to beat the Phillies. The Cardinals are winning in the 8th inning, and Bonds has homered. It's 2-0 Giants in the bottom of the 5th at San Diego. Thanks for watching Baseball Tonight. I'm Chris Meyer. Stay tuned for Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. More on Nolan Ryan's fight with the White Sox on SportsCenter. See you later.
Coming up next on SportsCenter, the race for first continues in the Bronx as Ricky shows he's a great AJ. But why is this former ace smiling? Kirby and the Twins were hoping to yank Aaron, while the O's still trying to climb the AL East ladder. Will Nolan share his Advil after this? Kruk had his eyes focused on the ball and the Braves. While the healing continues in Boston, the rebuilding must begin. Could Joe Montana be the next 2 sports star? Don't lose your temper. Stay calm. SportsCenter, the pasteurized edition, is next.
Good evening, and let's see if we can follow that. Welcome to the big show with my tag team partner, Dan Patrick. I'm Keith Olbermann.
Ricky Henderson is getting used to Nolan Ryan stealing his thunder. 2 years ago, when Ricky became the all-time stolen base leader, on that very same day, Ryan was busy tossing another no-hitter. Nolan stealing Ricky's headlines once again tonight, but for a different reason.
Nolan versus Jesse the Body Ventura later in the show, Dan. But first, desperately needing a victory tonight and another one tomorrow to keep themselves afloat in the AL East. The Yankees again hosted a Toronto Blue Jay team with Ricky Henderson that is better in Yankee Stadium than the Yankees have been. And the one tonight, Dave Stewart, one of the big game pitchers on the Toronto staff, gets Danny Tartable early with serious heat. He'd allowed just 1 hit through 4. Bernie Williams outside corner of the plate. Have a seat burned, but in the 5th, the Yankees break through. Mike Gallego, Stewart's former teammate in Oakland. You wouldn't think he'd do this a lot. He went very deep. 6 home runs on the year. Yankees are up 1-0. Scott Kamenicki, who has been the find of the season for the Yankees, allowed a base hit to Ricky Henderson to lead off the 6th inning. But then Mike Stanley up and at him as Henderson goes in for second. The call is he's out. That's the call. Your next man up is Roberto Alomar, who hits the dribbler to short. Maybe this is an even-up call. Gallego to first. Alomar slides. They called him safe. Mattingly can't believe it. Kamenicki can't believe it. It doesn't matter. The Jays did not score. Bottom of the sixth, Yankees break it open. Paul O'Neill reaches out and touches someone. Wade Boggs comes home, and it's 2-0 New York. Then in the sixth inning, already 3-zip Yankees. Mike Stanley, the MVP. Well, let's see if he can get enough plate appearances to qualify for the batting leadership first. Devon White. Oh, what a catch. That might have been a homer, might have been less. In any event, the Yankees are still up 4-0 now in the seventh with 2 out. O'Neill this time through the wickets of Tony Castillo, scoring 2 more men. Yankees go up 6-0 to win 6-2 as the Yankees continue to roll back at Kamenicki, with whom they are flawless this year in his starts at Yankee Stadium. The Yanks jump back to within 2 of first place Toronto and snap the 3-game losing streak they had to boot. And the Jays do not produce another one of their patented late rallies. The Yanks saved by Kamenicki, who was at best in their middle relief plans, got an emergency start after returning from the minors, and showed something of the promise he had as a rookie in 1991. On top of everything else, he is, with that win tonight, now 6-0 at Yankee Stadium. Elsewhere, the values of Aaron Seeley's baseball cards are shooting through the roof. In his native state of Minnesota, that was even more true tonight. Started off strong. Gets Shane Mack, first batter, swinging for the strikeout. He retired 8 of the first 9. Then comic relief. Dave Winfield has been in the majors since 1973. Could you tell? Come on up, Winnie. Come on. Come on. Brian Harper up then. Seeley delivering, and a high pop-out. This ballpark has been open for 11 years, and the infielders are still clueless as to large pop flies. Valentin lets it drop in for a base hit. Top 4, 2-0 Bo Sox. Scott Cooper to left. Gene Larkin. That's called hitting the wall. Ivan Calderon scores. We're 3-0. Then top of the 4th, 2 out. And Scott Fletcher, this time with going to right. Kirby Puckett even has a little trouble as it goes off the glove and into the corner. He plays chase, and the Bo Sox lead 4-0. They get some good defense as well. Against Pat Mears, Valentin, backhand pickup, and he stabs him at first. Nice scoop by Vaughn. Paul Quantrill comes on to relieve. Brian Harper, the fister. The looper is over Fletcher's head. Calderon with a throw home. They're not going to get him. Out. Ken Herbeck is out, and the Red Sox hang on for a 5-4 win. So the Sox are also 2 games back of the Jays. Seeley unbeaten at 6-0 in his big league career. Gave up 9 hits, 2 walks, but just 3 runs in just under 7 innings in his native state. The Twins left 11 on base. And since he came up from Pawtucket when Clemens went on the DL, Aaron Seeley has had the best record among major league pitchers, period. It was 5-0 going into tonight. Now with his 6th win, he passes even Bill Swift and, boy, a couple of young names on here. The kid was at Lynchburg of the Carolina League this time last year. Yeah.
The night before the Blue Jays traded for Ricky Henderson, another team from the Audubon Society nearly landed him. But the Orioles resisted the temptation when Oakland asked for either Jeffrey Hammonds, Brad Pennington, or Arthur Rhodes. Rhodes, who had been on the DL since May 15th, took Mike Mussina's place in the rotation tonight against the Brewers. And the Bird getting a ride from the middies. Arthur Rhodes took a wild ride in the first, walking Juan Bell, Kevin Seitzer, Greg Vaughn, and then walking Robin Yount. Bell scores, and Johnny Oates says, I better settle down, my rookie. Rhodes got some help. Next batter, Tom Brunansky. The shot to third, speared by Tim Hewlett over to Reynolds for the double play. The Brewers only plate 1 in the inning. Bottom of the first, gone. Mark McLemore. It's not playable. A 2-run homer. Eldred is stunned. It's 2-1 O's. Top of the second, 3-1 O's. Rhodes walks the first 2 men and then gets John Jaha to Hewlett. He can't handle it. Ripken does. Gets the force in the 5th. 3-1 O's. Juan Bell into left. Grady Anderson plays it, figures it's a double. What is Bell doing? Down 2 runs. He tries to catch Brady Anderson napping. Juan, what are you thinking? The final 8-6 as the Brewers do stage a mild comeback. The Brewers 1-5 on this 10-game road trip. Baltimore has won 3 in a row. Birds of a feather hitting together, certainly after the All-Star break, batting a little over 300, averaging nearly 6 runs per game. Harold Baines, Mike Devereaux go 3 for 6 on the night combined. 2 RBIs. They have been on fire, batting .341 combined with 35 RBIs. To Cleveland, the Tribe hosting the Tigers, and they didn't have this guy around for long. Stolen base leader Kenny Lofton, a strained rib cartilage. Tigers known for their power, but nickeling and diming that Indian staff. Livingstone brings in Gibson. Tigers led it 2-0. Still in the second, Chad Kruger. Alan Trammell at third, the suicide squeeze. Mesa can't handle it. Mike Moore, some nifty D, throws out Paul Sorrento in the Felix Fermin comebacker. In the third, Travis Fryman has been hot of late. Gone of late. 14th on the year. Tigers led it 4-0. In the seventh, it's Fryman again against Matt Young. Gone again. 2-run homer. Tigers up 8-3. And that is the way it ended. Travis Fryman's second multi-home run game this year, both against the Indians. That may be a Travis Fryman card right there, going up in value. Mike Moore won for his third straight time. He's 8-5, 9 innings, 9 hits, 2 earned runs. Here's your Eastern tote board following tonight's action. On Thursday, Guzman and Key are the starters at Yankee Stadium. Frank Viola goes against his former mates in Minnesota. The Twins will counter with Deshays. The Orioles continue their series with the Brewers. Rafael Navoa paired opposite against Ben McDonald.
It is only we started this hour-long edition of SportsCenter a little earlier than usual, and in fact later on we will be recapping the busy night in the American League East pennant race. But the top story in baseball tonight, at the start of his commercial for a popular analgesic pain remedy, the aged but still athletic Nolan Ryan says, after 46 years you know how to take care of yourself. As Robin Ventura of the White Sox could tell you after tonight, when Noli says that, it's not just an advertising slogan. At Arlington, let's get ready to rumble. Bottom of the second, 2-0 White Sox. Alex Fernandez plunks Juan Gonzalez. There is bad blood between these two teams dating back at least 3 seasons, and here it comes big time. Top of the third, Ryan against Ventura, and check out the pitch. Gets him in the elbow, ball destined for his back. He thinks about it for a second, and then this was a major mistake. He's not Jesse Ventura. He's Robin Ventura. Nolan Ryan, as the Associated Press described it, hit Robin Ventura 6 times in the face before anybody got in to stop them, and says, here, take some Advil. Well, if you're going to get hit by somebody, at least they're looking out for you. Ventura and Ryan make their way out of the pile, and then Gene Lamont, the manager of the White Sox, who was, of course, in a brawl last week, and all the to-do that the White Sox have been involved with, he now wants Nolan Ryan, which is a closer matchup age-wise, but not really that close. There has been very little other than leeway given to Nolan Ryan in terms of pitching inside. He has now hit 158 lifetime Major League batters. Bo Jackson decided to take his artificial hip into the fray. Pudge Rodriguez, who had the shattered cheekbone a week ago, was in there too. And coach Mickey Hatcher, the former Dodger, getting involved in it as well. Robin Ventura coming out relatively unscathed, so there was a lot of contact, but not a lot of blood from Ventura's point of view. Gene Lamont gets thrown out because, of course, they ejected. They did not eject Nolan Ryan, which you have to ask about the propriety of that, because it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's down. Robin Ventura is down in 1 round.
Well, you can see that Nolan was hitting Robin.
If you think that perhaps tensions are running a little high in Major League Baseball this season, if you had any doubt to that point, now you know it's true. Back to the less interesting ball game. Rafael Palmeiro, who could not be stopped by 6 punches to the forehead or anywhere else on his body, hits his 28th home run as the Rangers go in front. 2-0 White Sox at that point. Now it's tied at 2. 2 batters later with Gonzalez on first. Julio Franco doubles to the gap in right center. Gonzalez scores. The Rangers go on to win it 5-2. The historical note on this, in 1990 in August, Craig Grebeck, the light-hitting infielder of the White Sox, hit his first Major League home run off of Nolan Ryan. The next time up, Nolan Ryan plunked him. Nothing happened. The White Sox have been angry at Nolan Ryan ever since. And as we said, 158 hit batsman, 158 tonight. The first one Ryan had hit this season. And boy, oh boy, we had some excitement with just perhaps 10 more starts for Nolan Ryan in his career. Now we can say we've seen him done everything. Meanwhile, as hot as everybody was on the field, nobody is nearly as hot as Palmeiro. He had 13 homers in his first 74 games, 15 in the 32 since, and he has more RBI in those 32 since than he had in the first 74. Yeah.
We stay in the American League, where earlier this afternoon, Mark McGwire became an innocent bystander at an Oakland A's game for the 73rd time this season. McGwire, who has debated season-ending surgery on his left heel, took another cortisone shot on Monday in the hopes he will return to the lineup sometime this season. The A's, meanwhile, concluded the M stay in Oakland Wednesday. Brett Boone, he has been called up to the majors 3 different times. I think he's up to stay now. That's gone, a 3-run homer in the third. Mariners went up 3-1. Seattle led 4-3 in the ninth. And look out below. Terry Steinbach up with 2 men aboard. Vizquel throws to the plate. Hasselman drops the ball. Blankenship scores. We're tied at 4. Bases juiced. Jeff Nelson plunks Mike Bordig. And Mike Aldretti scores the game winner.
Hit him.
Oakland picks up the victory by the final of 5-4. This despite the 8th consecutive game the M's have homered on the road. Downs picks up the victory in this one. The Mariners have been manning the lifeboats when Lou Piniella places a call to the bullpen. Jeff Nelson has 8 of Seattle's 19 blown saves, including the one on Wednesday. Since July 1st, the Mariners have blown saves in 9 of 29 games. David Cohn and rookie right-hander Phil Leftwich, the starters tonight in Anaheim. They are tied at 2 in the 5th inning. We will try to give you another sneak peek at that before we exit stage left.
Unless you know your minor league baseball or your top 10 prospects lists, the name of the guy the A's got from Toronto for Ricky Henderson was probably a mystery to you.
But tonight, just outside Jurassic Park, Peter Gammons introduces us to Steve Carsey, now of the Oakland Carsays.
Of all the prospects that have been traded in the last few weeks, for veterans like Fred McGriff and Gary Sheffield, Ricky Henderson, Greg Harrison, Tim Belcher, scouts will tell you the best, without question, is Steve Carsey. Carsey is a legitimate potential #1 starter. Now, he's had physical problems in the past, but the A's Wednesday night clocked him at 95 to 97 miles an hour with a dominating old-fashioned power curve. As you may have noticed by the box scores, pitching is at such a premium, the scouts rate pitchers as the 3 top future acquisitions. And the Blue Jays, unlike the White Sox, Yankees, or Red Sox, were the only team to surrender a potential top-of-the-rotation arm to get Henderson. With Carsey, Todd Van Poppel, and Miguel Jimenez, who will be up soon, Oakland has 3 potential #1s or #2s as they begin their retooling. Don't worry about Devon White now that Henderson is with the Blue Jays. White's role model on the club is Dave Stewart. Ricky's best friend is Stewart. This was all worked out before the trade. Tim Belcher is a huge pickup for the White Sox. Their big 3 of Jack McDowell, Alex Fernandez, and Wilson Alvarez were 37 and 17 going into Texas Monday. Their starters led the league in wins and innings, but they were also 10 games under 500 in the spot that will now be filled by Belcher, who, remember, was outstanding in the '88 World Series. The Mariners tried mightily to move Randy Johnson before the trading deadline, because Lou Piniella has simply had it with the big left-hander. Seattle's season ended Sunday, July 18th in Boston, when Johnson asked out with a 6-1 lead and a blown-out bullpen. They blew the game, and in his next start, he and Piniella had it out on the mound. End of Randy Johnson. The majority of owners are ready to vote to move the commissioners and Major League Baseball offices from New York to Chicago. Oh, come on. Is this supposed to make it easier for Jerry Reinsdorf and the Tribune Corporation to run the game? Really? With the gathering labor problems, with all the public contempt that certain New York Mets have held toward their fans, with the problems the game faces, doing the right thing may be too much to always expect, but not too much to ask. This is Peter Gammons, ESPN.
Thank you, Peter. Back to Nolan Ryan's night for a moment. And the best we can recall, the only other player who's ever challenged Nolan on the mound was Dave Winfield. How far back did we have to go? I think he was with the Padres at the time, and Nolan was with the Astros. And this may be a situation where he wasn't ejected, but he'll probably be fine for this.
Well, much of the scuttlebutt in the American League over the last few years has been that there is a double standard in terms of Nolan throwing inside, which he does. He's willing to do it. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if you don't eject him for something like that, what is the double standard? That White Sox thing, dating back to Craig Grebeck, he responded to it, since the umpires weren't going to do anything about it, he responded to it by asking the umpires to check to see if Nolan was scuffing the ball 3 years ago. It didn't get a lot of publicity at the time, but that's the kind of anger that was building up in Chicago for the last 3 seasons.
We hope to hear from Nolan Ryan, or at least get some more reaction from Arlington following his scuffle. But coming up, the night in the National League and a big one in Atlanta. Greg Olson did it last night. Did he do it again tonight? Keith and I will be back in a moment. Back to Sports Center and to the National League. And despite having 5 pitchers with 9 or more victories this season, Jim Fregosi still looking to strengthen his staff prior to the trading deadline. Curt Schilling, who was tonight's starter in Atlanta, was mentioned in trade talks for Seattle's Randy Johnson. And Schilling, who was unbeaten in his last 3 starts, was matched with Tom Glavine, who was unbeaten in his last 4 starts. Glavine opened with a flourish, getting Lenny Dykstra with the whiff. And then Lenny, who's been known to talk to himself anyways, does so after that pitch. Schilling just as strong against Dave Justice, getting the whiff. Terry Pendleton, the whiff, and freeze it, Damon Berryhill. Top of the third, trouble for Tom Glavine. John Kruk, great piece of hitting. Waited on the breaking ball. Past Pendleton, next batter, Dave Hollins. You be the judge. Did he try to get out of the way of this pitch? Glavine said, come on, he's got to make a move. Well, it would cost him. Dutch Dalton down the line. Brings in Kruk, and Hollins is going to try to score from first. 2-0 Phils. Bottom of the fourth. Schilling is in control. Until this pitch, Ron Gant, Atlanta's first base hit with the base hit. Next batter, Fred McGriff, loops the single, and then next batter is David Justice. Gone the other way, a 3-run homer, 26th on the year. Braves went up 3-2. Top of the fifth, the Phils come back. And guess who does it again? Inky went the other way last night against Avery, goes the other way tonight against Glavine. 5th homer in 4 games. That is power. Bottom of the 8th, 8-6 Phils, 2 men aboard, Greg Olson. Homered last night. Homered tonight. Off David West, the game winner, 3-run shot. And the Braves win it by the final of 9-8. The Phillies are stunned. David West is stunned. Jim Fregosi, stunned. Anybody else stunned? Keith stunned. Braves have won 10 of their last 12. David West lost in relief, allowing 4 runs and 3 hits in 1 inning of work. Mark Lemke, 3 for 4 with 1 RBI, one of the prides of Utica, New York, along with Andy Van Slyke. Following the game, Greg Olson says the Braves still have the Giants in their sights.
This team's definitely got the talent to come back and overtake the Giants. We just got to continue to play good baseball, and hopefully they'll hit one of those streaks where they go maybe 4 out of 10. So, you know, we'll just keep battling, and you never know what can happen.
Well, the West leaders, you see what they're trying to catch up to. The Braves trying to catch up to the Giants, and this is what they have in front of them. Looking at making another second-half surge. 9.5 back in 1991, caught the Dodgers. 2 back at the All-Star break in 92, caught the Reds. 9 games back to start after the All-Star break, trying to catch up with the Giants. And speaking of those Giants, how are they faring right now against the Padres? 6-1. Kurt Manwaring with an RBI double, just made it 6-1. Bonds, his 33rd home run of the season. Royce Clayton, an RBI triple. And for the Padres, hope for the future. Brad Ausmus, a great defensive catcher, maybe the best arm in the game. First career home run to the Dome for the Dodgers and the Astros, and it was Dave Hansen night. He didn't know it when the game started, but Dave, it was your night. Helping out Tom Candiotti in the first. Greg Biggio is going to test Hansen, making his 4th start of the year. Not only making the stop, but getting the speedy Biggio. Pete Harnisch working on a 2-hitter in the 7th. And guess who comes to the plate? You cannot stop Dave Hansen tonight. You could only hope to contain him. Corey Snyder at first. 2nd home run of the year, just fair. Dodgers win it 4-2. Candiotti has won his last 4 starts. LA had lost 11 straight at the Dome before that, before Dave Hansen night. The Astros 13 runs and Pete Harnisch's 8 losses. He is 10-8 on the year. As for Candiotti, allowing 1 run in 7 innings of work, and Jim Gott, his 19th save of the season.
Dan mentioned Brad Ausmus. Did the Rockies get a bona fide major league starter to anchor their staff in the Brad Ausmus trade, or did they get just another victim whose ERA will put some of the high in Rocky Mountain high? They hope to get an idea this evening in Cincinnati as ex-Padre Greg Harris tried to make his 2nd Colorado start a little less rocky. Facing Barry Larkin, we're scoreless in the 4th. Hal Morris on board, and the 3 millionth opposite field hit of the season. Reds would score 4 in the inning. So what is Chris Sabo so upset about? He is bellowing. It's that haircut. No, it's not. It's because they walked Mitchell to face Sabo with the bases loaded, and the ball would go down, and it would go down hard. A grand slam off Greg Harris. The Reds cruised to the 9-3 victory after they made the mistake of walking Mitchell to pitch for the rodeo man himself, Chris Sabo. Bad news, though, for the Reds in this game, although John Roper, who beat the Rockies for his first major league win, then said he'd seen better teams in AAA ball, beats them for their 2nd win in his career. The bad news is Biff Roberts on the DL, sprained left thumb and a fractured tip of his right ring finger. The Reds say there is no timetable for his return. They're letting him go home to San Diego. The question is he ever coming back? Let's hope he's well real soon. And now the baseball police blotter, also known as our New York Mets report. Vince Coleman has been granted an unpaid leave of absence by the club till at least next week. until after the legal proceedings in Los Angeles. His agent says today Coleman will not contest the felony explosives possession charge, nor will he seek a jury trial. Meanwhile, from putting others at risk to putting your foot in your mouth, asked how he handled the frustrations of managing this team, Dallas Green replied, quote, "I just beat the hell out of Sylvia," Sylvia being his wife. Green was not serious, but the National Organization for Women says in a news conference today, so what? And demands a retraction and an apology, noting that joking about the epidemic of domestic violence in this country contributes to the mindset that it's somehow okay. Sylvia Green, by the way, is a member of NOW. And it was the 59th birthday for Dallas Green. That's the celebration, we guess. Maybe not. The three remaining untroubled New York Mets assembled at Montreal tonight and showed similar gifts. Jeff Kent and Ryan Thompson shopped at the same store. In the first, Sid Fernandez against Larry Walker. And Larry Walker with the single to right. Here comes DeShields. The Expos are leading 1-0. In the third, Larry Walker. Dan, this one's deep, and I don't think it's playable. Whammo, 14 on the year for walks, and the Expos are up 3-1. Did you know that he's an amateur magician? He just made that baseball disappear. He sure did. The Expos show the Mets a little D. Wilfredo Cordero with a nice grab to rob Dave Gallagher. And then Derek White, the rookie first baseman, hasn't hit too much. And he managed to make the catch and fall artistically to the bullpen. And Dallas Green says, no comment. As if the Mets had room for more trouble. Their closer, John Franco, is now on the disabled list with a strained muscle in the right rib cage, suffered Monday night. Coming up, another day and another dolor for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Jim Leland, you must be talking about.
That would be him.
He didn't last long in the game at Wrigley. In fact, not long at all. He said, I've had enough. I don't want to see it. We'll tell you what he saw and why he didn't see any more. The Big Show returns after this.
Pittsburgh Pirates is suffering from the flu. He's also suffering from his energetically patched-together pitching staff. And judging by the last 3 afternoons at Wrigley Field, he is also suffering from the umpires. Another matinee at Wrigley. You remember this from Monday. This is like 74 brawls ago in baseball. Well, in the second pitch of the game, Frank Castillo nails Carlos Garcia. The umpires warn both teams. Leland does not like this. We can all read Jim Leland's lips, and he is not praying. That time on the south side of Chicago. He's ejected on the second pitch of the game, and he missed a good ball game. Moved to the 7th. Bucks up 4-3. Next, Pirate Steve Buechele with a single against Bob Walk under the third baseman's glove. Here comes Grace. Here comes Derek May, and the Cubs are leading 5-4. Jay Bell's on first in the 8th, though. Orlando Merced, not a power hitter, but hitting the cover off the ball throughout the year, takes Sean Bosky over the hills and far, far away. Pirates up 6-5. Bosky's upset. The next batter is Jeff King. What do you suppose? Of course, throw inside to him. He's out. His family is out. I want them all out of the game. So they also threw out Jim Lefebvre. So now we have no managers left. Bottom of the 9th, still 6-5 Bucks. 1 out. Runners on the corners. The Pirates go for the double play. Denny Nagel, who was in the minors this time last night, up from Buffalo. The shuffle away from Buffalo. And the Pirates win it 6-5 in a pretty good game for them. Jeff Ballard faced one man and got a win, which is efficiency. Merced's home run, meanwhile, is the first non-solo job in the last 10 for Pittsburgh, and that's Leland's second incomplete game as Bucco skipper in 3 days. He was also bounced on Monday, Dan.
Well, the tired pitching staff of the St. Louis Cardinals sought relief from starter Alan Watson tonight against the Marlins. The rookie right-hander looking for his 4th win of the season in 5 Major League starts. Florida offering up Ryan Bowen. He was the object of desire prior to the trading deadline. After watching Ryan tonight, I don't think anybody wants him. Top of the 3rd, good defense here. Brian Jordan with the grab. As for Ryan Bowen, having some problems in the 3rd. Game tied at 1, and Ryan will walk Ray Langford. Todd Zeile.
Another walk.
He will walk him too. Renee Latchman is concerned. Bases loaded. Gilkey, Langford, Zeile. And Bowen facing Mark Whitten. He walks him with the bases loaded. Bernard Gilkey scores 2-1 cards. Renee is more than concerned. He is ready to shoot somebody. Richie Lewis comes in. Richie walked in a run. And then Luis Alicea got all of it. See you later. 7-1 cards. They would tack on a few more. Alan Watson, the star of this one. He's now 4-0. Remains undefeated in his 5 Major League starts. The Cardinals win it by the final of 10-2. Florida has lost 22 of their last 28 road games. Bernard Gilkey also homering in this one, his 5th in the last 9 games. Here's how they stand in what continues to remain a 2-team race in the NL East. The Phillies still have 1 more game in Atlanta. Ben Rivera and Greg Maddux, your scheduled starters on Thursday. The Cards will host the Fish on Thursday. Rene Arocha and Chris Hammond. The Expos meet the Mets. In an afternoon affair, Dennis Martinez hooking up with Eric Hillman.
In our breakdown segment tonight, we sashay over to the American League East and some scary numbers that indicate just why, despite tonight's loss, the Toronto Blue Jays have taken 2 of 3 from the Yankees and seem to possibly be on the verge of breaking away from the pack.
Just what is clutch hitting? You hear the term constantly, but nobody's ever really defined it. Tonight, the clutch hitting of the Blue Jays. Of the 4 principal challengers in the East, the Blue Jays, tremendous. In fact, better than everybody else when it comes to winning games that are tied after 7 innings. They've won 17 of 20 such games this season. Only the Red Sox are even at 500. Our breakdown segment, you've heard of better late than never. The Jays just better late. How do the Jays score their runs? Start with Roberto Alomar. After the 6th inning, Alomar hits 50 points higher and has 1 more homer than he does in the first 6 innings this year. Another late starter, Paul Molitor, hits 90 points higher. His on-base percentage 100 points higher in the game's last 3 innings. And a surprise, World Series MVP Pat Borders has been clutch, hitting 87 points higher with half of his doubles, 44% of his RBIs in the last third of the game, despite 98 fewer at-bats. Through the first 6 innings, the Blue Jays go through the motions, hitting an average of 273, which is still impressive. They've upped that to 276 after tonight's action. But when things start to get interesting, the Jays turn it up a notch. The difference, well, you see a big difference when it comes to what they can do. Toronto Blue Jays, in fact, what we're looking at is what their pitchers do against the opposition.
And about the Jays pitching in the 7th inning and beyond, the much-maligned Toronto starters have been saved literally and statistically by a fine bullpen. Tony Castillo, 2.41 ERA as a setup man in 31. Mark Eichhorn, another underrated middleman, 39 games, 39 strikeouts. His ERA, 2.78. He and Castillo have done wonders, setting up the big man, Dwayne Ward, 65 strikeouts in 45 2/3 innings. And the fear was who was going to replace Dwayne Ward when he replaced Tom Henke as the closer. No fear about the setups this year.
If the Blue Jays would happen to win it all again this year, the feat would be remarkable and also a rarity. You go back to 1987, the Twins, they had an ERA of 4.69. No team with a comparable ERA has won the World Series in the last 20 years.
But as we were saying, some of the numbers that we were showing in there indicated that as the game goes along, the Jays' opponent's batting average drops 28 points in the 7 and beyond range as compared to 1 to 6, which is the same for the Red Sox. The Yankees actually go the other way. Their number goes up 0.008, which is a disaster and explains everything about the American League East this season. And still coming up on SportsCenter, as we told you, the preliminary autopsy is in on Reggie Lewis. But what about the preliminary report on the Celtics as they begin their era without him? Jack Edwards and Jackie McMullen will look at trouble to go with the sadness in Boston. Stay with us.
Some people say it's impossible.